right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I guess, and good night. Everybody, this is Monique Giggy. Thank you so much for joining us at Singularity University's Learn What It Takes to Join SU Ventures. For those of you that don't know us, I always forget how to move these things. For those of you that don't know what Singularity University is, let me tell you about our mission. It's to educate, inspire, and empower leaders to apply exponential technology to address humanity's grand challenges. I am your host today. I'm Monique Giggy. I'm the Managing Director for SU Ventures. Serial entrepreneur. My last startup became the most popular golf software in the world. And after selling that company, I had the distinct privilege and pleasure to come and do the Global Solutions program here at Singularity University, which literally changed my life, opened my world and my eyes to the world of impact and to exponential technologies. And so that's why I'm here. My co-host here is Mikhail Holst.
Hey everyone, Mikhail Holst here. That's me. I'm the portfolio manager at SU Ventures. I've been at SU for 5 years now. In that time, we've built, some of our first accelerator programs and things for entrepreneurs at Singularity University. I've also been, able to participate in an era of rapid growth throughout the organization when we were just a small startup ourselves with 25 employees up to, the large multinational group we are now. And, in those 5 years, I've reviewed nearly 3,000 companies in that time.
Yeah, this guy's got a keen nose for hot, great startups. So let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen today. We're going to give you an overview of SU Ventures. It'll take about 40 minutes for those of you that are asking, and then we've got an open Q&A in the last 15 minutes. So there is a Q&A chat on the left side of your screen. Feel free to ask questions at any time. My team is standing by. I'll answer some of those questions. Mikhail will answer some of those questions at the end, and then the ones that we can get quick answers to will come during the session as well. So I am so curious. I bet, Mikhail, you curious to know where everybody's from? All right, so tell us, where are you all from? All right, and the polls are coming in. 29 responses, 50 responses. North America leading the way. Europe's kind of coming behind. All right, Africa, Asia, woo, South America, North America. Sweet.
All right.
Almost there. We have 122 people on this call today. Really exciting. 86 of you are telling me where you're from. Love it even more. All right.
And yeah, just go ahead and, rather than answer in the chat, just go ahead and click the poll so we want to get a good idea of where you all are from, and we can kind of tailor our talk today accordingly.
Yeah. All right.
Great.
Here we go. We got a lot of North Americans. Very cool. Okay, question number 2. Waking you up. Where? Nope, not where. Who? Who are you? Are you an entrepreneur with a startup? Are you an entrepreneur with an idea? Dying to be a startup? Are you an investor? Are you none of the above and just flat out curious? Ooh, lots of startup entrepreneurs in here. And the results are rolling in. 80, 90 people. Woo!
All right,
lots
y'all
of
getting
entrepreneurs.
faster.
Yep, just click in that box. All right, let's give another second. And bam. We got lots of startup entrepreneurs in here. I love it. With startups and those of you with ideas, amazing. Got some investors and a few folks that are just stalking. Kind of dig it.
Just here to learn. Great.
All right. Last question. How did you hear about us? Again, click in those boxes, and I promise this is the last question. Inquiring minds want to know. We feel like we're connected with you now. Right, Mikhail?
That's Mikhail.
All right, sweet. 90 people responded. Pardon the cough. I am trying to get over a cold with the cough that's been hanging around for like a month. All right, let's see those results. Bam, lots of you coming in from our email. Good job, marketing. Woo! All right, Global Summit, referrals, and the SU website. Sweet.
Awesome.
All right, well, shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Okay. There we go. Nope, this way. So, SU Ventures, we are a very tiny team of very passionate people. You know Mikhail and I, but you don't know the other two ladies behind the scenes. Top right is Jill Finlayson. She heads up mentorship for Singularity University, or Singularity University Ventures. She's also on the call as well, and so if you have a question for her, shout out to her. Below her lovely face is Molly Pyle, our program manager, social work master's degree. She's an incredible woman, heads up all the programs for SU Ventures. Now, we have got some pretty cool traction up to this point. To date, we've got 56 startups in our portfolio that have collectively raised about $220 million. They've created over 500 jobs. And what's really cool about our portfolio is we are very truly global in nature. So 75% of our portfolio are individuals that are not from the U.S. A lot of them do end up incorporating here and commercializing here in the U.S., but we love and encourage entrepreneurialism from all over the world. So the mission of SU Ventures, which is very important to us, is to increase the number of impacts, or the number of startups that are focused on impact globally. And the reason that we're doing this is because out of almost 600,000 entrepreneurs globally, only 3% are focused on impact. And the barriers to entry of starting a startup have never been lower. It's never been easier to start a startup. And so we ask ourselves the question, why is that? Why are only 3% focused on impact? And so we've made it our mission to help increase that number. We do it in a couple of cool ways. One is we will grow up take these brilliant ideas and entrepreneurs and grow them up through our programs, or we will cast a wide net around the planet and pull back entrepreneurs and startups focused on impact. These will come through our global impact challenges that we run. You can compete in those in your local country. There's our summits. We run 18, next year we'll run 18 summits worldwide, our different partnerships, and of course the referrals from our powerful community of alumni. Now for those of you who said you are an entrepreneur with an idea, trying to become a startup or ready to start up, we have a program called an incubator. It is specifically for that. If you have an idea and you want to 10x that idea, you want to learn about different exponential technologies, you want to learn more about the problem space, and 10x that idea into a startup, the incubator is a great program. The criteria for it is you have an idea. Maybe there's not a formal entity in place yet because you're trying to figure out, do I want to start up? What kind of startup am I going to be? Am I going to be a nonprofit? Am I going to be a B Corp? Am I going to be an LLC or a C Corp? We answer those questions in the incubator. You could be solo. You could have co-founders already or people you want to work with. And it's also open for entrepreneurs in large corporations as well, or development organizations that have a new idea that they want to spin out and work. The incubator is really awesome. Here's kind of an overall look at the journey of what the experience is like. We run a bunch of micro sprints in it. The first week we focus on the problem. What we're trying to accomplish is a lot of ideas or solutions come up, but they don't necessarily have a problem that they're focused on yet. And so we spend the first week of the program really going deep into the problem space. We've got some really unique curriculum that helps bring out the best of the problem space so that you fall in love with the problem before trying to apply your solution. And then in week 2 we say, all right, have at it. Like, let's hear the solution. Let's take that idea, 10x it with the solution. Let's look at the different exponential technologies that are out there. We also teach you about how to validate the market and how to do some prototyping. And the reason that we do that is because in week 3, that's what you go and do. You can go back to your countries. You can stay here and co-work in the space. We give you access to the lab to do prototyping. You get out into the market, do a lot of market validation. And then when you come back in week 5, we talk about go-to-market, commercialization, distribution. How are you going to sell this thing? How are you going to get it out into the market? Start to give you different ideas and explore business models with you. Week 6 is all about funding it. We also teach you, so we talk about how to raise money from philanthropy, how to raise money from venture capital and angels. We also teach you and talk about how you, maybe just generating revenue for yourself as a startup. How are you going to sell this? We talk about sales cycles, filling up the top of the funnel. And then the last week is where you launch. And so we help put together your videos, your deck, get you up on stage, bring people around you to learn so you can start communicating what it is you're going to go and build and start up in the world. And this is very important because when you leave this program, we want you to be able to have the materials that you need to talk to investors, to talk to potential customers, to talk to potential future employees or co-founders. And then, excuse me, there's 3 more weeks of follow-up with your mentors and your board of advisors after that. Now, for the startups that come out of that program that get a little bit of team interaction, that's where SU Ventures comes into play. Remember before I mentioned how we cast a wide net around the planet and we bring back startups from all over the place? They come into Ventures. And here's a little bit of a snapshot of what you get with Ventures. And so we broke it up into 3 components. You get programs, you get experts in mentorship through our faculty, staff, and mentor community, and then services. And so I bet you're wondering, like, tell me a little bit more, Monique. What goes on in each one of those programs? And I got to hear, like, who are these expert people? And I see services. Well, what the heck does that mean? We're going to talk about that now. Let's start with the programs. All right. This is a snapshot of what the overall programs look like for 2018. Now, we used to run an accelerator here, and what we learned with that accelerator is that an 8-week program is just not enough for what it takes to create an impact startup. Startups that are on a mission to create change in the world need something more than an 8-week program, and so they need sustainability. So we engineered ourselves so that we could be sustainable and offer programs that are shorter in nature so that our portfolio companies can come and they can engage in all of our programs as much as they want for the lifetime of the startup. So you could come, partake in any one of these programs, maybe 4 of them in year 1, 2 of them in year 2, 0 in year 3, come back and do 5 in year 4. It's completely up to you because we want to make the content and give you the resources that you need relevant and at that point in time when you really need it. So this is a snapshot of all the different programs that we'll run in 2018, and every year we will publish this. All of our programs are mapped to 3 very specific goals, and they're the 3 most important things for a startup. It's access to connections, to customers, and to capital. And we try to hit all 3 of those goals in every single boot camp or sprint or program. Let's talk about what a sprint is, because I know you probably saw that on that calendar and said, all right, tell me more. What is that sprint? So a sprint is an opportunity to come spend 10 days with us, and we help you figure out and focus on what matters. All startups, actually all companies in the world, there's a million things that you have to get done. There's a million pressing priorities. We take 10 days to help you distill it, figure out, let what's actually important rise to the top and focus on that. And the reason that we do that is because we want you to get to accomplish what it would take you 12 months to do in half the time. So helping you focus on what matters is super important. The other thing that we do there is we connect you or reconnect you with your board of advisors. So every single startup that comes into our portfolio gets their own curated board of advisors. The team led by Jill, we find the right mentors, faculty, staff. We tap into our corporate partners to help pull together a board of advisors that's specific to your startup, your industry, your stage, and what the current needs are. And so when you come back for a sprint, that's when you get to engage with your board of advisors at that point. Here's a snapshot of what the sprint journey looks like. It's a 4-step process. We get you into visioning. You get taken through our sci-fi DI content. We help you organize your thinking and prioritize them. By that point, you're focusing. You're working with different types. You're working with mentors. You're working with faculty. You're working with your cohort as you're making the choices, the decisions to focus on what matters, and then you're building. And you're building out a roadmap. That way when you leave, when you walk out of our sprint, you know exactly what you're going to take back to your team, take back to your board, and say this is what we're going to focus on in the next 3 months, 6 months. Some other boot camps that we run are very vertical in nature. One, for example, is straight up fundraising. How do I raise money from angels and VCs, and how do I craft my narrative so that they understand what it is I'm doing? And so we've partnered with Threshold Ventures to come in and talk about what does fundraising in the Valley look like? How do I fundraise globally? What is the strategy? What is my funding roadmap? We help you put your pitch together. We help you practice your pitch. We get you out meeting investors, and then we help do diagnostics to see, what did that investor really mean when he said X? What does it mean? Like, how should I approach this? In the next, how should I iterate on my pitch and tweak it so that when I go out on my next meeting, I get different types of results. So those are the things that we spend time doing in our fundraising boot camp. We also, for those, all of our portfolio companies are focused on impact, and so in that focus point, the whole world of grants opens up to you through philanthropy. But it's very important to know that it's a totally different way to talk about your startup. Impact investors, what matters to them is different than what matters to a venture capitalist or maybe an angel investor. And so we talk about the differences. We also get into the nuances of hybrid structures. What is the optimal way to set up my company so that if I'm going to be fully focused on impact mission, maybe I need to have a 501c3 in addition to my benefit corp, or what are the different hybrid models that are out there that are going to help me really tap into my impact, but also tap into the capital that's going to help me create sustainability and stay alive long enough to see this company grow and flourish. As a part of our programs as well, I mentioned earlier we've run a whole series of summits globally. Next year there will be 18 summits, and we make it available for our startups to get access to the content there, have a demo space that's there where it's relevant. And this is important because we want you to come to Silicon Valley when you need us and when it's relevant, but we also want you to stay tapped into your wider network and get access to Singularity in your countries as well, or maybe even different countries, and tap into the networks that are there. Say maybe you're trying to commercialize in Brazil. We've got a summit that runs in Brazil. Maybe you're looking at partnerships in Japan. We have summits that run in Japan. So we want to be able to give you access to the ecosystem globally through our summit series. So this is another, kind of going back to what the programs look like. It is missing all of the different summits at the bottom, but that is published on our website. So if you're curious to see what are all the different summits and how do I attend programs and attend summits at the same time, check us out on our website, su.org/ventures. So another category that we've got is our domain experts, and let's talk a little bit about that. I put this quote at the bottom of this because I find it to be something I tell myself on a daily basis. If you want to go fast, go alone. And as a startup, sometimes that's the best mode. But if you want to go far, go with others, and that's really what our ecosystem of domain experts is all about. It's about you with others. So we've got about 157,000 community members globally. Almost 40,000 of them are alumni that have been through our programs, and we're in 127 different countries. We've also got 100 chapters worldwide, which is incredible because now you can go and engage in a chapter, start a chapter to build out your networks in your country as you're trying to evangelize and galvanize people around what your startup does. And those are in 55 countries. Another thing to know about Singularity University is we are deeply rooted into the corporate space. We spend a lot of time educating the Fortune 1000, the Fortune 100 about exponential technologies and disruption and global grand challenges of the world. And so which means we have a lot of partnerships with large corporations. And this is important for startups because these are your early beta customers. These are the people that are going to be available to help you to sit on your board of advisors. These are just a snapshot of some of the different logos of the companies that we work with. Deloitte is a tight partner with us. Google is a partner of us. And if you're curious to know a little bit about the backgrounds of our domain experts, you can see this nice word cloud that Jill built that shows, on the left, this is the domain expertise of our mentors, and on the right you can see, where the distribution across exponential technologies fits. Our mentors are folks like Tom Chi from Google X, who helped prototype and build the first, Google Glasses. Catherine Glassy, founder of Brio, a multi-million-dollar software enterprise company. those of you that know Pascal Finette from Mozilla, also our entrepreneurial chair, leads a lot of incredible workshops and content. Ellen Lienz of Google and Apple, also an author of The Happiness Hack. These are all individuals that come around for mentoring our startups. And again, wanting to double down just on the fact that, how we approach mentorship is different here. We don't throw you in a room with a bunch of people. We're very intentional about how we connect people. And so our mentors know that when we're making connections to them, that we've thought about how this match is made, that our founders know exactly what the ask is, what they want to talk to this person about, and vice versa, that our founders are getting the types of expertise and advice from people who are vetted, who are leaders in their industry, and care what the startup is doing. So that last bucket is our services. Let's talk a little bit about that. We've got a great co-working facility here at NASA Research Park. Also, as we expand with more Singularity Universities, we'll have access to those locations as well. And so that comes as part of the membership to SU Ventures. We also have a great videographer and team that helps put together videos and case studies. We give all of our startups access with discounted tickets or free tickets to all of our different summits, and when there are expo centers at our summits and demo spaces, we try to make those available as well. Again, we spend a lot of time getting our founders on stages, building thought leadership around them and helping to really grow them and their impact. And the last is our services portal. These are different partnerships that we have with law firms, with marketing firms, with developers, designers that we've pulled together that work within Singularity University that you have access to as well. So here is, again, just that snapshot of everything that the membership gets with SU. You should know we do take equity. That is our model. We're an equity for services model. Funding does come down the road, depending on capital needs of the startup, what you're trying to raise, and we're trying to look for the right matches. And there's opportunity to raise money, through SU, and then also opportunity to raise money through our networks as well. Now, this is almost my favorite part of this whole webinar, and it's talking about our incredible companies. And there's no better person to talk about them than Mikhail, because he's the guy, he is the man that does all the diligence on this, amongst others as well. And he'll talk to you about the process and some of our companies. So, Mikhail, over to you.
Yeah, quick correction. I'm probably not the best. I think the founders themselves would be the best, but they can't all make it, so I'm going to have to be the next best thing. So let me give you a quick kind of snapshot. So this is the majority of the companies in SU Ventures. If you know any of them, you'll probably realize that it's a very diverse group. There's energy companies, there's healthcare companies, there's biotechnology companies, and everything in between. So just to help give you a better example of the sort of companies we're looking for at SU Ventures, I picked a few that I'm going to talk a little bit more about because I think they illustrate really well what we're looking for. So the first one is a company called Matternet. So Matternet was founded in 2011, and they're looking at the problem of transportation in areas without all-season roads. So there's a lot of places in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, where during the rainy season, the roads just become impassable, and entire communities, commerce, and transfer of really critical things like medicine just comes to a standstill. They realized back then, so this is 6 years ago, that there's an opportunity for these developing markets to leapfrog the highways and traditional infrastructure much in the same way that they leapfrog landlines. Places coming online now won't ever bother building landlines for their phone. Everyone just goes straight to cellular. So what if we could do the same thing for transportation? So that's exactly what they did. So here's an example from one of the pilots they ran in Bhutan. And their solution is an autonomous drone. They're really the first autonomous drone transportation company. There's other people working in this space now. But what's interesting is while FCC regulations 6 years ago were very up in the air, and it wasn't clear what was going to happen in terms of autonomous air vehicles, they went straight to the markets that needed them the most. And that is places in developing markets focusing on medical supplies and diagnostics. So this photo here is, a physician in Bhutan where, it's a place where there's very remote mountain communities. And while they do have a pretty good supply of healthcare professionals for their population, logistically it was just really difficult to get everything through. So this is a great case for autonomous drones. Fast forward to today, and this is one of their newest systems. So after being pioneers in this space, they've now developed a fully autonomous transportation service that's also delivering commercial goods, and that is with partners like Daimler and Mercedes and Swiss Post. So this is a snapshot of one of their landing stations here, where everything from the package loading, unloading, and swapping of the batteries is handled at completely autonomously. So it's a great example of a company that is focused on impact. That was their starting point, and they've been able to continue that healthcare focus, but also has a lot of large implications for logistics and society as a whole. Next company, this is a nonprofit. So we do work with nonprofits as well. That's a pretty common question. This one is called NextLeaf Analytics. And NextLeaf Analytics is a nonprofit analytics company that provides real-time transparency into supply chains, specifically vaccines. So what you're seeing here is this is a healthcare worker with one of their first devices. So what they did was they created transparency into if you're familiar with the cold chain, there's a challenge with delivering vaccines where they need to be kept within a very narrow temperature range, otherwise the vaccine spoils along the whole route of delivery. So if the vaccine spoils, at best case that vaccine is spoiled. Sometimes there's an indicator strip. Sometimes you just don't know. And then when you go to administer the device, you just have to hope for the best. Best case with a spoiled vaccine, it does nothing, and the patient is still vulnerable. Worst case, you can actually make the patient sick. So it's really critically important that you monitor the cold chain for this process. And so what they did was they created transparency in these supply chains by combining low-cost cellular technology. This is a $20 Chinese smartphone you see here, with a temperature sensor they developed, which is just a few cents of hardware. And that stays with the vaccine fridge along its entire journey. Because cell phone penetration is over 90% in most parts of the world now, you can provide real-time insights into and warnings if the temperature is starting to go out of control, and you can send an alert to the handler. But then also you create all this really interesting data. So here's a snapshot before and after that is 8 vaccine fridges. And you can see here that the red on the left is vaccines that are way out of range, and blue are ones that are just kind of getting close. You may not be able to see the detail, but you can see the difference between the left and the right side, and that's just within 1 month. So they're able to create, by having real-time data, aid agencies like the Gates Foundation and the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, they can figure out how to spend their tax dollars most effectively. Next company, this is a biotech company called FredSense. They're a biosensor company, which is a new industry, and they measure real-time water quality analysis. Their initial target market is environmental resource industries. This is because they're based in Calgary, where there's a huge need for better real-time watering of water, because there's a lot of effects happening from the oil and gas industry in that part of the world, from fracking and tar sands and things and the like. So the current way that you test this water right now is, oftentimes if you're a large company doing something that can affect the water, you have a mandate to test this water, but it's very infrequently. You pay someone to fly out to a remote water basin with a helicopter. They take a sample. It goes back to a lab. At best, you're getting results within a few weeks, more likely a few months. So what they've done is they've created a device that you can see here. This is one of their first prototypes. But it uses an engineered bacteria that emit electrical signals in the presence of toxin in the water in real time. So this is a much faster way to kind of have a lab in the field in real time. And traditional water analysis is a much slower process. And this way you can get real-time data into what is happening in these waters. And you can actually let people know what's in their water, because chances are you don't. Last company I want to talk about is called Authentize. Let me move the slide forward. So Authentize creates software that is becoming the backbone for digital manufacturing. So most people by now know about 3D printing. It's not a new technology. It's actually been around for about 30 years. What's stopping that from really taking off? Why is so much traditional manufacturing still unchanged in that time? And why is 3D printing really not taken off? A lot of it is there's just a lot of unmet needs in the industry. So after attending a program in 2012, their CEO, Andre Wegner, realized that he saw all these barriers that's keeping 3D printing and additive manufacturing from really taking off. So their solution at Authentize is they've created software that integrates digital manufacturing, additive manufacturing at an industrial scale. So all these things you need to do for industrial level manufacturing, like quality control, process automation, and intellectual property management, you can all do now. So they work with some of the largest manufacturers like Nike, Caterpillar, and so on. And that they're developing this software which is going to enable the next generation of manufacturing. And they provide a lot of great insights and dashboards, which you can see here. So you can monitor, you can remotely control the manufacturing, you can see insights into the data in real time. So you got a good understanding now of some of the companies that are in the portfolio. Let's talk a little bit about what we're looking for when new companies apply. So the first is mission alignment. This is, broadly, does this fit within SU's mission of using technology to positively impact the world? So we're looking for a really strong impact focus and ideally a really strong technology focus that can go with that. Fully formed entity. So as Monique talked about earlier, you need to have the company fully formed, ready to go, whether that's a nonprofit, for-profit, etc. If you don't have that yet, we can still work with you, but you're a better fit for our incubator. So SU Ventures is for companies that are beyond that stage. We're looking for a founding team of at least 2 full-time co-founders and traction. A lot of this comes down to traction, and we want to see demonstrated market validation of your product, whether that's users, purchase orders, clinical trials, or at best, sales.
One thing to add on that too, and the reason that traction is important is because a lot of people, especially when we start getting the word out about what your startup does, they want to know that there is something there as we bring customers around it and individuals to evangelize about what the startup does. And so traction it's the right types of startups that really benefit, from kind of the launch of being a part of SU Ventures. Those that have some degree of traction in the market just are far more successful.
Absolutely. So if you think your company's a fit, if you think this sounds great, what are next steps? How do companies join? So it's an online application process. There's no more cohort model like, with a lot of accelerators, you'll see a deadline, for the spring program, apply by such and such time. We're always accepting new companies. Because we have a long-term engagement model, we have the flexibility now to accept companies when the time is right for them. So the application's online now, su.org/ventures. You can apply now. You follow up with an interview. So one of our team members will interview, companies who apply. Might be myself, might be Monique, or someone else from our team. After that, we move into an expert review. So, we do have the luxury of having all these, really incredible mentors and faculty, and we leverage them here if we can. If there's something that's, extremely technical, maybe a very esoteric technology relating to artificial intelligence or something about a medical device, we have the right folks that can take a look at that and help us decide if there's something there. And then finally, we make our decisions for every company that gets accepted into SU Ventures as a team.
This process tends to move very quickly as well. So once we make our selections fast, and we've been doing this for so long now that we're looking for the right fit. One, that we can provide enough value for you, and that you can take advantage and benefit and really thrive within our ecosystem. And so once we start to engage and you apply, we're doing interviews, we're getting the diligence done, we're making decisions, we're accepting docs, and then we're kind of moving that process along. So you can rest assured that you get answers quickly. So now is a great time for you to, any questions that you haven't asked yet or you want to ask, or if somebody asks a question that we start to answer, that spurs an idea from you, go ahead and pop it into the chat thing below. Ready to take a few questions?
Absolutely.
All right. So Arnold, hello. It says, I'm still at the idea stage. Ideas do not have traction, but there are other companies in the space. Is this still a program I can apply to? So again, we've got an incubator, brilliant for startup or individuals with ideas. SU Ventures is specifically for startups. So if you have an entity, you're fully formed. Both programs are awesome. If you want to learn more about them, see videos, actually see other projects that have come out of them, check them out on our website. We've got a ton. Let's see. Jonathan, are there any exponentially scalable example companies where the customer is the low-income consumer themselves? All of these examples are rich country customers. So it sounds like.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was chatting with another team member.
So he's looking for examples of startups in our portfolio that their customers are not, the wealthy 1%.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I mean, Matternet that we talked about was a great example of that, where they are, they went where the market really needed them. So for early on, that was, developing economies that didn't have strong infrastructure, but had a lot of unmet needs around transporting critically important supplies like vaccines and medical diagnostics. So that's a good example, and they've moved on to now to the point where they started in developing economies, but now they're in some of the wealthiest. I mean, they're working in Switzerland, in Germany, where there's larger needs. So basically, while the wealthier nations were figuring out what they wanted to do with handling drones in the airspace, they went to other markets that really needed them and said, we don't have the regulation, we just need your help.
Yeah, Magic Water is another awesome example. They are harvesting water from the air and turning it into clean drinking water. They're focusing specifically on the market in Kenya to bring the cost of producing water so low that it can be franchised and sold within the Kenyan market. Gordon, hello. So can you talk more about the form of equity that you are looking for?
Yeah, I'll try and answer that question. So basically, we take, as Monique mentioned, we typically take 3% common stock, and that's due upon joining the program, and that pays for membership in SU Ventures. So it's common stock. There's no special voting rights or anything associated with that, if that's what you're asking.
Yep, and we can talk about that more in the interview as well. The interviews are two ways, so you get to give us the specifics of what's going on with your company, so we can answer questions and find the right fit, and then we get to ask questions to you. All right, Carolyn, do you give greater weight to startups as opposed to ideas? If it's SU Ventures, we only take startups. We don't take ideas. Ideas are great for the incubator. After the incubator, you get some traction with it. It becomes a startup. Then you can apply to SU Ventures. Fabrice, hello. Is there any kind of participation fees for the SU Incubator or SU Ventures programs? Yes, there is. So Ventures, we take equity. That's the model there. The reason also, just to point out, the reason that we do that is because when we're creating sustainability and programs together, we don't want to take cash from startups. We want a long-term partnership, and so equity tends to make the most sense for that. Now, for those of you who are at the idea stage and want to participate in the incubator, it's $18,000 per person to attend that program. That includes your lodging, that includes your food, and that includes the program as well. So it's a full 7-week program. That's where we cover the lodging for. The last 3 weeks to the 10 weeks are remote, so you're back in your countries or your homes for that. Again, that program is $18,000. More details, again, can be found on our website. Jason, is this building the full product or just the concept prototype? My guess is you asked this when we were talking about the incubator, and these are going to be prototypes. I mean, if you get to, we have had startups that have gone to do their first their first full build on their minimum viable product, so we push that during the incubator. So it just depends, and every startup is a little bit different. One of our startups coming out of our last incubator, they had engineered, what they were trying to do is use CRISPR technology to engineer viruses to be receptible to antibiotics. So that's not something you can necessarily straight up prototype. It takes time to do that. So it really just depends.
Take the next one. So Anton's asking, what to emphasize in prototype prices. $100 at scale, but requires $4 million. So I think there's a couple questions in here. So if your question is, what to emphasize in your application, the first thing we really are looking at is impact. So I get asked that a lot. What should we focus on? Focus on the impact. That's the first pass of if this is a fit or not. And then after that is traction. So first we're looking at impact, then traction, and then it goes deeper after that in terms of how developed is the product, is it technically sound, etc. Oh, and if you're asking about costs and where you're at in terms of prototypes, for ventures, we really need to see at least a functional prototype and some demonstrated market traction, whatever. If that's a beta with some early paying customers or whatever that may be.
Or some early MOUs or LOIs.
Yeah, but there needs to be something there. But for the incubator, their prototyping is actually built into the program.
Right. So incubator, you can come in, just an idea that's on the back of a napkin right now, and really kind of go down heavy on that. Jolene, are the cohorts for the 8 to 10 week sprints, or are there cohorts for the 8 to 10 week sprints? To be more clear, is there a start day for the incubator, or can startups get to the program individually? So it is a full, can you put the date? It is the full, you want to be there for the entire time. During the build phase, so in weeks 3 and 4, you can leave and go back, or you can stay, co-work, prototype, market validate. Completely up to you. The date is April 2nd. So our first incubator starts April 2nd out of September 3rd. And then our second one is September 3rd. That little voice you're hearing in the background is Mikhail, our program manager, kindly helping me out to remember dates. Okay, Carol, if you're a GIC winner, are you automatically considered for SU Ventures? Nope.
I'll take this next one.
Great.
From Mustafa. What happens after a company is accepted to SU Ventures? Great question. So process upon acceptance, there's a couple agreements to sign to handle the payment and legal P's and Q's for joining. After that, there's a pretty extensive onboarding process where we help integrate you into SU community, get you a portal so you can start participating in our programs, and our team really walks you through the process of getting started. And as new companies are joining all the time, this is a flexible process. So we're doing it, every time we add a new company to the portfolio, we're getting them started in SU Ventures and helping them, get a landscape of what's available to them as an SU company, and then what are some next steps they should take.
All right, next one. I deeply respect your name. Forgive me if I pronounce it wrong. Aldair. So for companies and interests in Africa or from Africa, how do we access these programs? The majority, so the incubator and the sprints and the boot camps, so the funding boot camps are here. In 2018, they will all be here as Singularity University continues to grow through our partnerships and putting different SUs all over the world. You'll be able to access programs and content in other locations as well. All right, next one. Dylan, How do you join the SU Incubator program if you're based in the UK? Is there a local program here? In 2018, all of the programs for the incubator will be here at NASA Research Park in Mountain View, California.
Yeah, and there are summits internationally as well, so that's another.
But for the incubator's here. Yeah, the incubator in 2018 is here. Shafin, hello. What is the cost for joining? With limited resources, we need to use these for patents and lawyers. We need to file patents across the globe. So again, ventures, it's equity. If you are looking to, come to the incubator, it's $19,000. Okay, $18,000. Forgive me, $18,000. All right, Joseph.
Yeah, if you want to, so Joseph has a question we see a fair amount, which is, if my company's, we're a big company, but we're trying to pivot and, something needs to move out. That's a good potential case for the incubator. If you have something you're trying to spin out as a new entity, the incubator I think is a good way to do that. There's a lot of good development that kind of needs to happen as you start a new business. If this is more of, I have a large organization and I need to help swing this whole big enterprise in a new way, there's other programs at SU for our enterprise level folks that would be a better fit for you.
Yep, and all of that, so since you are a large listed company, it's up to you what you want to do. There are other programs at SU as well, as Mikhail mentioned, and all of that you can find on our website, su.org/enterprise.
Yeah, but and just to be clear, we're really focused on new entities, new companies, whether that's a new startup or a new spin out from an older organization. That's something we've done. We've got quite a bit of experience there.
All right, Julia and Arnold, what is the equity amount?
We covered that.
Yep, 3%-ish. And again, we can get into the nuances of that depending on validated valuation in your interview as well. If your company is not in a position where it can give 3% because you're, a much larger startup, our programs are still fantastic for you, and we can talk about that in your interview for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Julia, how do we get vetted? When does it start?
So vetting starts right away. As soon as the application is received, we are reviewing the application. If it gets to an interview, we'll dig a little bit deeper there. And then, if we proceed from the interview, then we'll have one of our faculty and some of our faculty or mentors take a look at it as well. So from the moment a company applies to the time a decision is made, you should expect that there is vetting being done.
All right, John. What are the details of the equity stake that SU? What are the details of the equity stake that SU takes? We are fairly advanced. It's like $1 million plus revenue to date.
Yeah. So we do typically charge 3% because that is an appropriate amount for most of the companies at the stage that join our program. For companies that, as Monique said, have a validated valuation that's much higher, or very high revenue, perhaps if you've been bootstrapping to grow the company, we can have a discussion about that. But
and we take less. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line there.
Yes, but again, just to be clear, it's for we really need to see some validation of the size of the company, because it's pretty rare that most companies come in for less than 3%, but it does happen, and there are later stage companies that do want to take advantage of the things we offer at SU. And we have built our program to provide long-term value to companies as they grow. We do have companies that have raised tens of millions of dollars in the portfolio that we're still engaging with regularly.
Mm-hmm. Anton, hello. What about networking? Can you connect me to certain people? Yes. We spend a lot of time doing exactly that. Our process is very, very straightforward, and especially when you want connections. So we don't make random, loose connections. If you were to send me an email and say, hey, connect me to Peter D., it would never happen. But what we do is say, why do you want to be connected? And let's make sure that we're setting you up so as we make this connection, you're both going to get value out of it. That's how we make all of our connections. But yes, we have a very vast, as I had talked about in the presentation, a very vast network of corporate partners, CEO level, VP level, large corporations and development organizations within our mentor community here in the Valley and globally. But we don't waste people's time. And so, when we're making connections for people, we want to make sure that there is always a value exchange there. All right, Shafin, if you take equity as mentioned, then we can work as a team. Can you confirm we can work on this model?
I'm not sure I understand that one.
So yeah, we take equity, and then you can totally work as a team.
Yeah, I mean, if your question is, can my team attend the program, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so for sprints, I see. So if your question is can we bring, how many people can we bring to a sprint or to a boot camp, you're welcome to bring, your team. Now you've got to be, you're constantly weighing out the pros and the cons of like, should I bring my developers or should I have them be building? So, you got to make that decision as the CEO of your startup. But yes, it is open to bringing your team. You just, when you register, have to let us know. All right, Luis from Mexico. I'm kind of in the middle. I have the idea and the prototype and going to do the paperwork in January. Incubator is the right fit or ventures program. All right. So if you have an idea, it's kind of up to you. You can totally apply for both, and we can talk about it together. By now, hopefully you have a good idea of the types of startups that we're looking for. So if you have a prototype and that prototype has traction and you have a fully formed entity, go ahead and apply to ventures. If you don't, stick in the incubator. We can hash it out in the incubator together, help get it to market, figure out how you're going to get market validation and traction, what customers need to be talking to, etc.
Maria asks, can a group of startups apply to tackle a systemic problem? That's an interesting question. So if you have maybe a consortium of companies that you're all focused on, water, challenges in the water space, then you would all need to apply individually to SU Ventures, but there's no reason you couldn't all join. We have had companies refer other companies that are in their space, which is actually a great thing to see.
All right, Joseph, how does a large established company interact with SU? We have some phenomenal programs for the enterprise level organizations, and so I'm not going to get into the bulk of that here. You can check it out on the website, and then the enterprise team runs a ton of different webinars as well. So just sign up for one of those. All right, Dan, what is the best path if you are late incubator but are ready to do customer research? No current traction. Should we work with you first or try to get ready on our own? We have a 5-member team and are an S Corp LLC. Let's see. So you could definitely take your startup into the incubator. I think that might be awesome, and really figure out what your go-to-market is and how you're going to do that. See if you can 10x your idea. See if you look at the other different exponential technologies that are out there. Maybe incorporate those into your current strategy. Let's see. Julia, what do you consider an impact focus? It means we have what are called our Global Grand Challenges. They are mapped to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. These are going to be in areas of health, energy, poverty, disaster resilience, to name a few. So we want to see that you are changing the world. One thing you will not find at SU Ventures is companies that are building the next wearable for a dog, perhaps, a photo sharing app, or maybe a dating app. We are definitely focused on the impact space that entrepreneurs and founders are building to make the world a better place, to bring relief to individuals who need it, constructing homes, delivering water in cost-effective ways. All right. Let's see. Want to take the next one, Mikhail?
Yeah, so you mentioned, Loic, I hope I said that right. You mentioned its services for equity. What percentage are you looking at? It's 3%, and we're a little short on time, so I'm gonna fly through this one real quick. Yeah, we are looking at evaluation of the last round, not the upcoming round, which Loic asked about. whatever the current valuation of the company is.
All right, Juan, most important reasons or criteria for not accepting candidates. We pretty much don't accept them if they're not mission aligned and there's no traction. Mana, what if we have one full-time founder and the other is waiting to get funding to become full-time? Let us know that in your application. That kind of indicates to me you might be a little early, but I would need to see the details of your startup, what you're building, what your roadmap is, et cetera.
Knowledge asks, do you work with startups in education? Yes.
Yes. Education is one of the GGCs, the Global Grand Challenges. We are definitely looking for EdTech startups to bring into the portfolio. Heather, for SU Ventures, you take a % before you invest. Yes, it's an equity for services model, and then we look at investing based on capital needs of the startup. James, we're a scale-up company in our Series A round.
Hi, James.
Oh, hey, James.
Yeah, so James and Heather are both asking, if SU is investing capital into the company.
In some cases we will, but it's on a case-by-case basis. All right.
Are you required to be U.S. registered in order to participate? Loic, again, this is a really good question. So we prefer to work with U.S. entities. Unfortunately, that's just due to U.S. tax law. It's very difficult to hold equity in other markets. The tax implications are pretty challenging. So you don't need to be in the U.S. You don't need to be American. You don't have to be addressing U.S. markets, but it is much easier if you do have a U.S. entity like a Delaware C or a benefit corp or even a 501c3. But we can work with companies that are not.
Okay, Arnold, good question. How is IP handled in the incubator program? Many facets have not been protected yet and will likely come out of the program. We get this question all the time, and you should know, no NDAs that are being signed, and so you'll want to figure out what is patentable, set up your provisionals. We can help you with that process. We encourage a lot of heavy collaboration, and as a matter of fact, our best startups are the ones that help the cohort help each other out and receive help as well. So if you are comfortable in that kind of environment, the incubator is amazing. If you feel like you need to be stealthy, maybe you work independently for a while, and then once you get some traction with your idea, apply to ventures. Okay.
One last quick question and answer. Ryan's asking, what if the founders need to be sponsored for a visa? We can help connect you with some really great immigration lawyers. We have a lot of experience working with international founders in the past, but we basically leave it to them because they've got it all figured out. So it's something we can help with, but it's not a requirement.
Okay. You all had a bunch of really great questions. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for this last hour. It is a pleasure to virtually meet you all. I look forward to, for those of you that are going to apply, I look forward to reviewing your applications, learning more about your startups. We deeply, truly love what we do and empowering the startup community at its heart. So thanks for joining us. This message will self-destruct. Just joking. No, we will be sending out the webinar for anybody that you want to share it out or anybody who wasn't able to attend. So this will hit your emails. And if there's any follow-on questions, feel free to email us. Have a good day. Good evening. Goodbye.
Thanks, y'all.
Good night. Thanks.